Hey there, amazing listeners. Before we dive into today's episode, I've got a bit more housekeeping. If you love the show as much as we love making it, please hit that follow button. And if you're feeling extra generous, drop us a like, leave a comment, or share an episode. We still find that good old word of mouth is the best way to get the show out there. So please tell your friends, tell your colleagues, tell your dog, or for our demographic, tell your fellow residents in the old folks' home. Your support helps us keep the conversation going, brings more awesome content your way, and allows us to attract some fab guests. So thanks as always for listening. For now, get comfy, get cozy, and let's get into it.
Let's start a podcast about our mental health for no good reason why. Let's call it Mind Cake.
How do, and welcome to another slice of Mind Cake
Mind Cake.
with him,
Lee Crompton. And him.
Paul Bisset.
God, I've missed you.
Oh, missed you too, buddy. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
All the better for seeing your luscious tash.
It's coming on, isn't it?
That is perfect. How have you... Does that take a lot of maintenance?
Yes, I have to. Do you know, because my facial hair is actually pretty poor, apart from the goatee area. I can't go sideburns.
No, I've noticed, yeah.
So this moustache just blossoms, but it does. I have to trim it every other day to try and keep it in check.
Yes, I mean, you the rest of your face looks as soft as a baby's bottom.
I had a shave yesterday.
Oh, is that what it is? Right, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it's for a role. I'm not just growing a tash; it's for a part.
It's not Movember.
Not quite. I mean, I could have. You know, I should have just tied it in because I'm going to be mustachioed until the end. Till Christmas anyway. So maybe should have done Movember. I still can, can't I? I can still sign up for it.
I think you're supposed to start though you
Yeah.
can't just go, I've got a fully formed tash. So I'm
So
just
give me money.
I'm just maintaining it in November.
Yeah.
Even though I've
enough.
already got one.
Fair enough.
But we're very lucky to have you, Paul, because you're a very busy bee.
I am. I'm doing 3 shows at the moment, so I'm all over the shop.
Mhm.
Don't know whether I'm coming or going.
Where are you currently in the country?
I am in Ulster.
Not
I think that's how you pronounce it.
not
Ulster.
Not Ulster.
Not Ireland, no, Ulster. So just outside Stratford-upon-Avon, like round that neck of the woods in the Midlands, which is very nice.
I think you're not far from cousin Gary.
Oh, cousin Carrie, where does she stay? Or maybe we should say this on air.
Yeah, no, let's not bleep out her, and her phone number is for anyone who wants to get in touch.
Yeah. So I'm currently in a travel lodge, and I've got shows in Chipping Kebden tomorrow, mate.
Lovely, mate.
Yeah.
Not Shark in the Park.
This is not Shark in the Park. This is You Choose. So it's a kids show, but it's the same author of Shark in the Park. So it's based on a Nick Sharratt book called You Choose. Well, Nick Sharratt and Pippa Goodhart, I should say. So
I've ladies and gentlemen, I've seen him in it, and he's very good.
did you see You Choose?
Yeah.
When did you see You Choose?
About Erin.
Oh, that must have been a long time ago.
Erin wasn't very old.
Yeah. But yeah, so doing that again, so that's good fun. So yeah, if you've got little ones, do Google You Choose show. Come along and see it if you like. So how are you, mate? You had a busy week last week, didn't you?
I have had a busy week. Yes.
Well, busy. You've had a busy.
Well, a busy,
stressful couple of weeks.
Yeah. I think we'll get in. I'm all right, mate. Yes, I'm good. I am over the worst of it, I think, and I'll get more into that when we bookend. But for now, we can't leave Lee-Anne waiting any longer.
No, I know, bless her. She's been waiting a long time to have her episode, hasn't she?
Yes, she has. So, do you want to do a brief intro?
Yeah, so this interview, or our guest in this episode, is the wonderful Lee-Anne, who runs Trossachs Wellbeing, and we'll go into all the detail of what she does, all the great work that she does in the episode. But it was a really nice afternoon. Now, you weren't there, Lee, because you were ill that weekend, weren't you?
I was ill again.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was just myself chatting to Lee-Anne in her
Studio.
Is that what you would call it? A studio?
Eating her brownies.
Oh, the brownies were sublime.
So I heard, yeah. Didn't save me any.
Well, like I said, it gets you back for that time you ate an entire Victoria sponge in a car by yourself when you were driving to Dundee with the Toblerone.
Nom nom nom. Lynn.
No, to be fair, Ian McNabb had a slice of that, didn't he?
He did have he gave it me with a slice missing, if I remember rightly, yes.
So you ate like 90% of a cake?
No, I think I took it home for the kids.
Okay.
No, actually, no, I tell a lie. I didn't want to, if you remember rightly, I did not take it home because I'd eaten it all in the car. No, I did not take it home because I didn't quite know how I was going to get a Victoria sandwich home just on a plate.
Yes.
So I took it into the office and shared it with the other people in the orifice. That is my official story and I'm sticking to it. Yes.
Yeah, but it was a really lovely afternoon. She was a great guest, really easy to talk to, fascinating stuff that she does. So yeah, just buckle in.
Shall we get into it?
Let's do it.
So, folks, we are very privileged and pleased today to have Lee-Anne Breen from Trossachs Wellbeing joining us. Hello, Lee-Anne.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks.
And we're currently sitting in Lee-Anne's home therapy studio. Is that what you would call it?
Yeah, I call it my therapy space. Yeah.
It's lovely. So this is a little bit different for me because I don't get the chance to do one-to-one interviews in person a lot. Most of our stuff gets done over Zoom, so this is a really nice change of pace.
Yes, absolutely.
And also, Lee's not here today because he's not feeling very well. So this is the first time that I'm going to get cake and Lee is not going to have any.
Yes, sorry, Lee.
Don't apologise. He's had more cake than I've had hot dinners recently. So Lee-Anne, could you start off just by telling us what it is that you do at Trossachs Wellbeing?
Yeah, so I kind of take a mind-body holistic approach to everything that I do. And I have a background in mindfulness, meditation, other sort of energy work, Reiki healing, and then breathwork is a big focus of my business. So I do that in a one-to-one, online, in person, and group settings as well. Stress management, workplace well-being, a whole host of different things. So I've got kind of varied training, varied background, varied sort of experience that I bring, and essentially every person's situation is unique, so it's a bit of a kind of pick and mix, bringing things together to meet people exactly where they are for what they need. So I've been kind of doing this business for around 3 years now, and what brought me to this was a journey with my own kind of health, both emotional, sort of mental health and physical health, sort of looking into complementary and alternative things to help myself. And then following on from that, decided to have a complete change in my own life and begin to train in these different modalities so that I can pass that on to others.
Wow, that was a really thorough explanation. Thank you so much. Was it a case of kind of getting into this kind of stuff for a personal way to become more mindful and then sort of buying into it more?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what was your first experience in this sort of personal experience in this kind of field?
So actually for me it was probably around 11 or 12 years ago when I was looking for ways, as I say, to kind of improve my own health. I'd gone through quite a significant challenge with sort of low mood, depression, anxiety, and also developed an autoimmune thyroid condition. So for me, very, very grateful to the NHS and the Western medical system, very grateful that exists. But then looking for things beyond that to improve my health. So then my first experience really was actually going for some Reiki healing myself, and I loved it. and then acupuncture. And acupuncture really was the first thing that kind of switched me on to that real mind-body connection, and really highlighted how much we need to work with the physical body as well, actually, to improve our emotional health and our kind of spiritual health as well.
It's really interesting because we've spoken to quite a few different people on the podcast that do different things, like sleep therapists, hypnotherapists, lots of different things. It all comes back to this mind-body connection. Could you tell us a little bit more about what the mind-body connection actually means?
Yeah, I mean, actually for me, very, very personally, is that I see that we're one system, and certainly in our kind of Western culture and society, I feel that there's quite a separation there. And we still talk about the mind and the body as though they're separate, but I feel that we almost can't separate them. They're one system. They're so connected that, you know, we are one system. So when I personally talk about that mind-body connection, it's really just a way to say that I see us as a holistic being. There is no separation between mind and body. And just even to kind of pare that back and simplify that, we know that obviously our thoughts can impact how we're feeling physically, and how we're feeling physically can impact our thoughts and our emotional health as well. So I just seek to work with both for myself and clients as well.
Brilliant. I'll ask you about just a couple of things before we get on to the breath work.
Sure.
Reiki and acupuncture are two things that I've never tried, but Lee has actually done both. So he had a Reiki session a little while ago, which he spoke about on the podcast, and he actually had some acupuncture done yesterday.
I saw that on social media.
Yes, so I haven't been able, because he's under the weather today, so I've not been able to speak to him properly to hear about how it was. But I was interested in his experience with Reiki, because he said it felt like the person was like actually physically holding on to him and manipulating him and moving him. And then when he looked, they weren't touching him. And it was so. How does that work? Like, how do you sort of get that sensation when there's no physical contact there?
Well, I suppose we're all energy, aren't we? Everything in this whole entire universe is energy, and so it's kind of working with that universal life force, that energy. They talk about it as prana in yoga, that life force. They talk about it as ki or chi in other Eastern kind of medicine, and again, that's what they're working with in qigong and acupuncture, and so in Chinese medicine it would be the meridian system, and yoga and actually in Reiki they're working with the chakras, the energy centers of the body. And when you train in Reiki, you're just training to work with that energy, and essentially you're just channeling that energy, and you are bringing some balance to the energy system of the person that you're working with. So the kind of thinking behind it is that some of our energy centers can either become very overactive or very underactive, and what we're looking for is just nice balance and flow. So sometimes some of those energy centers can become a little bit blocked and stagnated, same as they would with the kind of Chinese meridian system. And sometimes they can become very overactive, as I say. So we're just trying to bring some balance to that, and it's just kind of, it's almost, if you can think about it, like really focused energy. I think it's one of those things that you have to experience to really to believe it.
Yeah,
because it does sound a little bit woo-woo. It sounds a little bit out there, a bit left field. But actually, I was just really really open-minded, and B, probably quite desperate for anything that was going to help improve my health all of those years ago. So I went for Reiki just with an open mind, and again had a very similar experience to what you're saying that Lee had experienced, and I felt a lot of heat and a lot of tingling and a lot of intensity, and the therapist did not have their hands on me, and I was, it blew my mind. It really, really did.
It's something I've been wanting to try for quite a while, actually. So I think I will have to now to try and get that experience. And again, that'll tie into the mind-body thing, right? Yeah. So like if you've got something going on upstairs in your mind, that can cause blockages or whatever it is energy-wise throughout your body. So it's like you say, it's all part of the one thing. Absolutely, yeah. And I think a lot of these things that a lot of these kind of alternative or seen as alternative or complementary practices have been used in
other cultures for thousands of years, and Reiki not so much actually, but you know, they don't question it, they don't need to analyse it with science. But in the West, we kind of want to nail everything down, research it to within an inch of its life, and that's wonderful. But actually experience it and see how you feel. That's the way.
I think that's true of, like you say, we should go into basically everything we do in life with an open mind, really, shouldn't we, no matter what it is. But especially this kind of thing, whether it's some sort of healing or, you know, a tarot reading or, you know, whatever it might be, go and experience it and see what it's like, and if you get something from it, great, and if not, you can continue searching. Yeah,
and actually we can loop this back to cake. An analogy that I like to use with the clients that I work with is that there are many cakes in a cake cabinet for a reason, because not everyone's choosing the same cake. And I feel that with any of these sort of modalities, whether it be meditation or Reiki or whatever, there's not a one size fits all, and so some people will respond better to different things. So I just feel, try it, see how you feel. If it's not for you, as you say, move on to the next.
Try another cake,
exactly.
The breath work. So again, I don't know too much about this, but I've been looking on your Instagram and your website a little bit to try and see if I could get a bit of an understanding before this. But I suppose the best thing would be just tell us what the breathwork thing is. And
So obviously breathwork is a very broad term. It's a huge umbrella term that encompasses a whole host of different techniques and practices from around the world, and again, some of them spanning back thousands and thousands of years. So breathwork can be mindful breathing, gentle breathing. It can be built into meditation, and it generally forms quite a core part of most meditative practices. Pranayama, that's a huge part of yoga, and actually real sort of traditional and authentic yoga. The breath is almost the most key part of any yoga practice. So yoga is a moving meditation, and you move with the flow of the breath, and the breath kind of guides all of those postures and those movements. And the ethos behind that is that if we really flow with the breath, so we're focusing on the breath with the movement, then we're not going to overstretch or overstress our body or overstrain the body, because we're flowing with the breath. And that becomes a very meditative practice as well, because we're really tuning in, using that breath as a focus and an anchor, and doing the movement. So in essence, that's a kind of moving breath meditation. Some of your listeners will probably have heard of Wim Hof. His style of breath work has really kind of brought breath work into the minds of a lot of people in the West. That's a very kind of activating, sort of very energetic breath work, and that's all about sort of improving stamina and endurance and mental sort of strength and mental well-being as well. Then you've got Tumo breathing, breath of fire. That's, to my mind, what a lot of Wim Hof breathing is based on. Holotropic breath work is actually kind of more the school of breath work that I'm trained in. So I'm not a holotropic breathwork therapist, but a holotropic breathwork is based on what they call conscious, connected, circular breathing. And just to simplify that, conscious, bringing awareness to it. Circular means that we're eliminating any pause between our inhale and our exhale. So we're creating a really nice circular pattern with the breath. And the whole point of that style of breath work is to really quieten our mind, drop us into our body, and really connect with our body and those deeper levels of our consciousness. And it is, again, one of those, you have to try it to know how it feels, and each breath work experience using that circular breathing can be different. So you could come this week and do a breathwork journey using that style of breathwork, and you could maybe drift off and have a lovely relaxing kind of sleep dreamlike state. You could come next week and have a huge emotionally cathartic experience. You may have a slightly altered state of consciousness. You may have a big emotional release. I believe that it will give you what you need as well. So that style of breath work is quite a deep kind of journey that we take with the breath. But I also use different breathing techniques for managing stress and anxiety and just day-to-day sort of gentler practices with the breath. So they have their place as well.
Okay, so there's a couple of things there. So I've seen, maybe this is something similar then, that I've seen on, I think it was Instagram again, where someone was like lying on a table like this, and they were having like, they were shaking and kind of vocalizing, like having quite a big emotional release.
Yeah.
I guess for you, every client you have, and even if you see a client regularly, every single experience is going to be different.
Absolutely.
So how do you, as a practitioner, just sort of prepare yourself for that and manage that? Because you could have, either something that's really sedate and gentle, or something that's quite extreme and loud and maybe a little bit scary.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of just cope with that?
So actually, one of the key parts of my training, when I trained in a thing called actually holosomatic breath therapy, and that was quite an extensive training, and it took me 6 months and a lot of hours of training. And one of the key components of that was space, holding space for that. So we did quite an extensive sort of self-practice, a self-healing journey with the breath work was the first part of that teacher training. So before we could even attempt to hold space for anyone else, we had to really have a full spectrum of those experiences ourselves.
Right.
And I definitely had that full spectrum myself. I did have big emotional release. I did feel quite compelled to move. My body wanted to move during some of my breathwork journeys. Sometimes I was really mopping my neck with tears that just wanted to come out, and actually there wasn't necessarily a lot of thought attached to that emotion. It just felt like such a clearing and such a relief. But anyway, back to this sort of the training aspect. A huge part of that was being able to just sit with someone in whatever came up, and that's quite challenging at first. And not to necessarily want to swoop in and fix anything or change anything, just to really keep yourself very centered, very grounded, and just to be open to holding that big space for that other person. And that just comes with a wee bit of practice and just knowing how to ground and center yourself, which obviously I do before I hold a breathwork journey for a group or an individual. But then I always open any of my sessions with a grounding experience as well, so that those breathers are going into that feeling as centered and calm and as grounded as they possibly can as well. But yeah, it's just knowing that it is a very safe practice, although it can be quite a powerful practice. It is safe, and the feedback that I've had from people is, I've tried meditation, I've tried mindfulness, I've tried yoga, I've done all these other things and they're great, but this is something all of its own, and it's amazing. And people, you actually can see the shift in people. They will walk in looking like one human and they will leave with this lightness in their eyes, and you see the facial muscles have softened and people just look that much lighter. It's incredible. So it's just knowing and honouring that whatever is happening during that breathwork experience is what they need, and it is safe. And safety is a big key part of what I do, so I'm really monitoring how they're breathing and making sure that they are engaging in nice deep diaphragmatic breathing. We don't want to see lots of upper chest or shallow or really rapid and fast breathing. So that's my main focus, as long as they are taking those lovely full deep inhales. They're not going to go into any kind of sort of hyperventilation or shallow breathing. So I know they're breathing appropriately, and it's just honouring and holding space for whatever comes up. And that just takes practice. That was a very long-winded answer.
No, but it was a brilliant answer. It deserved a long answer. You do the breath work with individuals, but do you do group sessions as well? Yeah. So they would, I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they wouldn't be quite as intense as experiences as some of the individual ones, or?
Yeah, I mean, they certainly can be, and I had some regular clients that came along, and they would just have big emotional release, and they just knew that it was a safe space. So we take a little bit of time in a group session so that everyone has a chance to chat and ask questions and kind of familiarise themselves with the space. And certainly the first time that someone maybe comes along to a class, they might hold back a little bit. But generally, I think when you have what I call is like a bit of a sharing, a closing circle at the end, so we all have a nice cup of herbal tea and people can ask questions and they can share their experience. I think then people are more open the next time they come along to knowing that actually we're all here, we're all having our own experience, but we're a similar experience, and it's a safe space to just allow whatever wants to happen. So I do find that actually sometimes people can have quite a powerful experience during a group session as well. And so you're lying down, the lights are dimmed, there's low light and fairy lights or candles or whatever. People have blankets, they tend to be on a yoga mat, and I'll put some nice bolster cushions along the side so they feel quite cocooned, like they're on in their own little space.
Like being swaddled as a baby almost, yeah.
And when you really drop out of that prefrontal cortex, that busy thinking mind, and you're dropping into your body and you're really focusing on the breath. Of course, you have some awareness of what's going on in your environment and that there are other people in that space, but it really sort of does quieten the mind and it focuses you. You really focus quite intensely on that breathing, and you're really in your own zone, in your own space, and you almost kind of, for the most part, forget that there are other people there and there are other things going on, because you're just there having your own experience. So some people want to try it as a kind of one-to-one initially, and other people will just rock up to a group and get on with it. So it's just nice to be able to offer both if people want that personal space.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, like it's the cake analogy again, like not everybody will want to be by themselves, or not everybody will want to be in a group, but they can still get the same experience, which is really important. I went to drama school when I was younger, so like a lot of the classes, and I maybe didn't really appreciate at the time how important they were, but we would do voice classes, movement classes, dance, all this other stuff, as well as acting. But in our voice classes, there was one tutor in particular who would really focus on the breathing and using the diaphragm, and get, like you were talking earlier, using that rather than your lungs. But I guess it was all coming from a place of supporting your voice, projecting without straining your voice and that kind of thing. But we would do quite a lot of, and I'm not saying it's the same thing, but we'd be lying on the floor and you'd be focusing on your breath and breathing in, and that sort of circular thing, trying not to hold the breath. It was breathing in for a certain number, breathing out for a certain number, and then in for longer and out for longer. And we'd be lying on the floor, initially kind of going, how's this making me a better actor? And then suddenly half an hour's gone past and you feel brilliant and relaxed and focused, and that actually makes you better in the class when you're learning stuff. So I
can see how that would be an incredible tool for many reasons, as you've just described. The calm, the focus, but also the diaphragm's a muscle like any other in our body, and the more we use it, the more we're strengthening it. And
I'm pleased to say, because in anticipation for today, I have been thinking about my breathing a bit more. That way you start thinking about your breathing and suddenly you sort of sometimes forget how to breathe because you're focusing on it. But I was sitting, I've just been in Germany for the Scotland game as well, which is why my throat is wrecked. But I was on the plane coming back from Germany, and I was thinking about today, and then I just realised that on the plane I was like, oh, I'm just naturally just used that. That's just how I breathe. It's never up here. So I mean, that training's obviously just become part of my everyday life, and I don't even think about it.
That's fantastic, and that's what I say to people, is that the more we bring awareness to the breath and the more we're strengthening our diaphragm, we'll notice when we're slipping into slightly dysregulated, less favourable breathing patterns. When I took that breathwork training, I then began to notice when I was busy or I was a bit stressed, I'd be holding my breath as I was going about doing things, and I would catch myself. So the more and more we have that awareness of our breathing, the more we'll improve it. But that's great. That's fab to know that actually you're taking those lovely full deep breaths quite naturally.
Yeah.
You're not shallow breathing.
Yeah, it's not until you actually focus on it and think about it, you realise that you're doing it, or like you say, you realise you're not doing it perhaps.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's maybe something that people should be more aware of.
Yes. I mean, there's a wonderful guy, James Nestor, who is a journalist, and he kind of used himself as... He put himself through lots and lots of experiments and different practices with the breath, and he's written a book, which I think the title is just Breath, by James Nestor, and it's become a huge best-selling book. It's really, really, really interesting, and he did that sort of holotropic circular breathwork type journey, but he actually went and had himself hooked up to lots and lots and lots of different equipment. There was a sort of research study that was being done, so I think he had to spend so many days, I think it was quite an extensive amount of time, having his mouth sealed up and only breathing through his nose, and then having his nose sealed up and only breathing through his mouth, and having to do lots of different breathing practices, some that would be healthy breathing practices and some that would not. And then they were able to measure lots of different kind of markers for health. And I'm not going to go into all of that because I can't remember all of the minutiae of it, but it's really, really fascinating. So I love that style of breath work that I do for what it is, as a kind of more of a... Some people find it quite a spiritual practice, quite a meditative, a really deeply meditative practice, really cathartic practice. But then I would not necessarily advocate for that type of breathing. We use the mouth quite a lot during that breathwork journey. You don't want to be going around mouth breathing day to day at all, but definitely bringing awareness to your breathing and peppering in gentler practices throughout your day as well. So just taking a minute to take some nice deep diaphragmatic slower breaths down into your belly, dropping your shoulders down, breathing through your nose. Just doing that for a minute here or there throughout your day, it becomes a lot more habitual. You become more tuned into it, and then you kind of use it more when you need it as well. But certainly the breath is linked to our nervous system, so that's why these breathing practices are so impactful in a good way, in a positive way. So every inhale that we take, we're activating the active part of our nervous system. And every exhale, we're coming down into that rest and restore branch of our nervous system. So if we're feeling like we need to energize ourselves a bit and get ourselves going, we can really be focusing more on the inhale. And if we want to calm ourselves down and settle ourselves down, we can be extending the exhale. And actually that's often why you'll see people yawning or sighing. And you might think, what have I done? They seem a bit tense and they're sighing a lot. No, that's actually the body and the brain trying to settle you back down. So it's an extended exhale. So it's kind of just naturally forcing you into that rest and restore branch of your nervous system. So, and same with yawning. Yawning does that. So if you force a yawn, if you're feeling quite uptight or stressed, it can actually calm you down, or just forcing a sigh. So it's quite a useful thing to know and to understand why we're doing, why is the breath so important? Why is it going to help me to reduce my stress or to energize myself? Or it's just very, very connected to our both branches of our nervous system.
Wow, that's so cool. It's funny talking about the book, just the breath book.
Yeah.
Lee was talking in a previous episode about this sleep tape.
Yes.
So Lee interviewed a guy called Cam Cooney, which was our last episode, and he swears by it. So just in case any of the listeners don't know what this is, it's like it's tape that you seal your mouth shut before you go to sleep. So it's making you focus on, well, I mean, you have to breathe in through your nose because there's no other way to breathe. And Lee tried it, but then he's got 2 young kids. So when he was getting settled, one of the kids woke up, so he had to sort of remove it to go and deal with that. And then he tried it again, and then one of his other daughter spilled a glass of milk or something, and then it became a stressful thing for him. So I don't know if he's been able to try it properly. But would you? What are your views on the sleep tape thing? Is it something you've used or?
I have used it, and I mean, I'm quite active when I sleep. So
like physically, kind of
a little bit, yeah. So not necessarily always sleepwalking, but I removed it. So 9 times out of 10, I would wake up and it wouldn't be on my mouth.
Oh right, okay.
But I was off the back of reading James Nestor's book. I was really keen to get it, so I ordered it, and I've actually got some. So you're welcome to take it and try it, because I just remove it. I just remove it in my sleep, and I don't even know I've done it, and I wake up and it's not on my mouth, which is quite sad. So I've not had a true experience of whether it works for me personally, but it absolutely makes sense. And actually, nasal breathing, which is what that's forcing you to do, has so many health benefits, and a lot of us are mouth breathing a lot of the time and snoring, and people can actually resolve snoring and sleep apnea by using that mouth tape. And then the knock-on effects of that are obviously hugely improved sleep, and that impacts every area of your health, doesn't it? So big advocate of it. If it works for you, try it, see if it works. And certainly all of the evidence suggests that it's really helpful. And nasal breathing, for one, can be really, really good at actually lowering your blood pressure as well, because it releases a lot of nitric oxide and it filters the air that's coming in as well. So the benefits of that are huge. And I think it's something like 80% of our nitric oxide is produced through the nose and breathing through our nose. So, and we're getting cleaner filtered air when we're breathing through our nose. So if you think if you're sleeping maybe 7 to 9 hours a night, and that's lovely filtered air, and you're increasing that nitric oxide, and you're lowering your blood pressure, and you're having a better night's sleep all round, well, the benefits would speak for themselves.
See, you are selling me on that, whereas we looked on the website for the benefits and stuff, and just the way it was worded, like we couldn't really, it didn't really seem like there was any benefits that they were on the actual product website. So hearing you say that, it makes more sense to me now.
I would actually lend you the book, but I've lent it out to someone else. But I would highly recommend, if it is of interest to you, reading that James Nestor book, because that really sold me on that big time.
There we go.
Big time. And he advocates for just shutting your mouth as much as you possibly can. So even if you're out a walk, it takes a bit of practice and a bit of training. Naturally, you'd be wanting to mouth breathe, wouldn't you? But forcefully just consciously trying to keep your mouth closed and breathing through your nose will increase your stamina and your ability to improve your exercise as well. So lots of benefits for it. So give it a go. I'll give you some away, and then you can maybe report back.
Yeah, even just one little bit. I'll try it tonight, and because myself and Lee will do an introduction and an outro to this episode as well, so it'll give me something to talk about as well. Now, I was going to ask you about sort of measuring your sort of the benefits that your clients are getting, but you kind of already said that they come in looking one way, or sort of giving off a certain energy or vibe perhaps, and then afterwards they seem completely different. Yeah. Do you get a lot of clients returning? Do you get a lot of regular people who kind of like sort of maybe come once a week or a couple of times a week, or?
Yeah, I mean, generally, if it was a deep sort of breathwork journey, I run the classes fortnightly, and I find that's great. Once a week is probably ideal, once a week to once a fortnight, so that's quite a deep experience. And then when I work with different sort of gentler, I would call them gentler techniques, but highly effective, sort of that could be done, they could be built into your life every day, and I would advocate for peppering them throughout your day, throughout your week. Just, as I say, for a minute here or there, but I would maybe work with a client for an hour once a week, either on Zoom or in person, for a number of weeks until they're starting to feel a shift. So the emphasis on those kind of gentler breathing practices are much more about settling our nervous system, learning to sort of calm our nervous system down, to feel more regulated and to kind of reduce stress and anxiety. So that, it's kind of how long is a piece of string. But to answer your question, yes, people they generally will block book for my breathwork classes, so they'll come once a fortnight for as long as they feel the benefit of that. And then often they'll go, life gets in the way, or they'll go off and just practice on their own, or they'll maybe try a slightly different breathwork technique, and that's all fab. So do get people returning week after week for these different practices.
And how much information do you get from your clients about why they are here? I mean, is that something that you get into? Get them to discuss, like, if it's stress, anxiety, low mood, like you sort of get that information from them, you can have a discussion about that. Does that change your practice depending on what someone kind of comes with?
Yeah.
Do you have a different techniques or different methods to try and focus on different states of mind, I suppose?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a phrase that you'll hear bandied about, and it's about just meeting someone where they are. And I don't think there's just a one size fits all. And so I actually had a lovely client who attempted to come along to a group session, and unbeknown to me, so they'd signed up for the first time and I hadn't met them, and they'd come as a willing participant, and as soon as they came into that group setting and they tried to settle down and engage in the breath work, they were quite restless, and they were just challenged with feeling it was difficult to settle into that experience. So I then invited them, opened up the space for them to come on a one-to-one experience, and just working a lot more gently, because actually there was quite a component of stress and anxiety there. So then we would just work much more slowly and steadily, and just often what can happen is if people have been going through a sustained period of stress and anxiety, maybe even experiencing panic attacks, it can just be really challenging to begin to try and settle and relax, and there's a lot at play there. So then it's just allowing people the opportunity to understand why that's challenging, and then working much more slowly and gently and gradually to bring a bit of a feeling of safety and calm back into their body and their nervous system bit by bit by bit. And I often use the analogy of like teaching a dog to sit. We're kind of doing that with our brain and our body as well, our whole nervous system. You can't just say to the dog sit once and it knows how to sit. And if we've been in that state of hyper arousal and stress for a long time, kind of quite chronically, even on a low grade, it is hard to settle. So it's just about educating them as to why that's difficult and normalising that, because it is actually quite normal to find that challenging when we've been feeling stimulated for a long time, and then guiding them back into that safety in their own body, little by little by little. And often people busy themselves and they distract themselves, and they don't know how to settle and be calm and centered in their own body anymore. So yeah, that's just one example. I'm kind of going off down rabbit holes and tangents.
It's
here,
fine. No, we love a tangent.
Hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, 9 times out of 10 actually, people are saying they've got sleep issues or stress or anxiety, or they just want to feel more relaxed. They're looking for ways to feel calm and relaxed. Ultimately, sometimes it is relating to kind of mood and emotional challenges, or actually even maybe somebody's gone through something reasonably traumatic and they're looking to just begin to let go of that and have a bit of a release. But yeah, the vast majority of the clients that I work with, they're using it as a way to kind of release or relax or calm down, or just have a little bit of respite, a bit of a retreat from that busy life, that busy world that we're all part of.
Well, yeah, especially now, things are just, with just technology and the pace of life and everything like that. We're in a different place than we were 1,000 years ago or whatever. So,
exactly.
But, and I don't know why it would be any different, but that mind-body connection, and you were talking about the part of your brain. I always forget what it is, the prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
But that sort of that flight, fight kind of freeze response thing is still very much part of who we are.
Yes, and it sort of doesn't really serve us in our modern world the vast majority of the time. And it's that primitive response that's happening much quicker than any cognitive thought. It's almost like a reflex action. It's just happening in a millisecond.
It's because it's an interesting thing from a personal perspective. It's one of those things like an actor getting stage fright or forgetting lines. It's because that part of the brain's taken over because you know they're nervous. Yeah. And that instinctual thing kind of stops you remembering your lines or what you're meant to be doing. But it's that kind of thing, isn't it? That just
exactly
affects you in everyday life in lots of different ways.
Yeah, exactly. So that just that prefrontal cortex, that cortex part of our brain that's kind of engaged and able to learn and socially interact, and it's fully online when our nervous system is calm and it's regulated. And as soon as there's a perceived threat or danger or stressor, that bit is dampened down, it's kind of gone offline, and then we have this amygdala, this more primal part of our brain that is lit up, and it's just programmed to keep us alive and nothing more. So that being alive is very, very different from thriving and feeling good. It doesn't care if we're having a nice experience. This amygdala just wants to stop us being eaten by a tiger in the bushes, and that's often the analogy that's used. But it's also kind of, it can just become hyper vigilant, and that's actually what's at play when we're beginning to try and relax. If that's been switched on, for want of a better term, for most of the time, quite chronically, for a sustained period of time, as soon as we begin to try and settle and relax, that amygdala, it loves familiarity, and familiarity could be being anxious and hyper vigilant, hyper alert to everything. So when we begin to try and settle and relax, that amygdala is just like, that's not familiar, we don't relax. Come back over here into this kind of hyper vigilant, anxious, hyper arousal. So often people sadly feel, I don't know how to relax, I can't settle. Or they try to meditate, or they try to do gentle breathing practices, and they say, well, this isn't for me, I can't quieten my mind, I can't settle. I actually feel, it makes me feel more anxious, it makes me feel guilty, or things that I hear quite a lot. Because
you can't do it, you then start to feel other negative emotions.
And also just why on earth is it that I'm engaging in this thing that should be relaxing, that ought to be relaxing, and other people can do it. Why am I not able to relax? There's something fundamentally wrong with me? No, they've just been kind of stuck in that hyper arousal state for a bit longer than we would like. And so and that's why I say it's kind of gently nudging the body and the nervous system back into safety, little by little. And I kind of liken it to going through turbulence in an aeroplane or going over bumps in the road. We know that amygdala is going to be pulling us back into that sort of hyper arousal when we begin to try and relax, if it's just been switched on for too long, too much of the time. So knowing that that's what's at play allows people to understand, okay, maybe I'm just going to be going through a little bit of turbulence as I learn to feel that safety more in my nervous system. And I know that primal part of my brain is going to be trying to pull me back over here, but I'm going to say, no, I'm running the show, and I can do this. And it's just little windows of tolerance that we're looking to extend. So feeling safe and settled and calm in your body, and extending the windows of time where we're able to feel that, and just reminding our nervous system, hey, there's another way of being here. There's another way to be calm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Makes sense.
Because you got into this as a way for you to try and improve your health or your mental health, whatever it might be. And now that you're a practitioner in it, do you practice what you preach? So every day, do you pepper your day with little moments where you take a moment and regulate the breathing and all that kind of stuff?
Definitely.
I don't know why you wouldn't, but I just wanted to ask, is it something that you're quite conscious of, making sure you set time aside to make, just so you're always on top of everything?
And I think actually yes and no. So I would love to attend the classes that I run and do more deep kind of lengthy breathwork journeys more regularly myself, because when I was able to fit them in once or twice a week, goodness, I really felt the benefit of them. But actually, you know, I'm a mum and I'm running my own business and I'm studying various things as well. So I've got a lot of commitments. I'm like most people nowadays, spinning a lot of plates. And I was getting quite frustrated because I wasn't setting aside that time to do those lengthier practices. But I thought, actually, this is a great way to explore how to build this into your life, given all of those busy circumstances, because actually that's the vast majority of people living in 2024. We're all spinning a lot of plates. We're all busy. And I do think we live in a bit of a kind of hustle culture that praises productivity, and it almost becomes like a badge of honour to be spinning a lot of those plates and to be seen to be doing a million things, you know. And it's great in one regard, but I don't know that it's actually sustainable, and I don't know that it's totally conducive to optimal mental and emotional well-being. So absolutely each to their own. However, I know for me, at the moment I am busy, I'm spinning a lot of plates, and so I want to pepper that throughout my day, and that's my invite to my clients, is to say, you don't have to sit down or get up an hour early and do this for an hour every morning, or go and do this for an hour every night if they are busy. It's if you stick the kettle on in the morning while the kettle's boiling, literally do it for 2 minutes. While you're in the shower, take 2 minutes. You know, if you're sitting on the loo, just do it then. If you're about to walk into a situation that you know could be quite stressful or quite activating, do it for 30 seconds. You know, put your hand on your chest or your belly and take 3 lovely big deep breaths, and know why you're doing it, and just try to build it in so that it becomes a bit of a default, a bit of a habitual practice. So in the face of something that we know is going to trigger us, do it then, or do it as a way to bring yourself back down, you know. And it's so, yes, I use these tools actively all the time. And the nice silver lining about doing what I do in my work with clients is, okay, the breathwork classes aside, the rest of the time I'm demonstrating these practices and I'm using them with my clients every day. So I get to do those practices as part of my job, which is lovely as well. And don't get me wrong, we're all human. And I think sometimes when the horse is bolted and you're really, you know, you're in that sort of flapping rabbit in the headlights mode, it can be hard to stop and go, I'm going to stop and I'm going to take a deep breath. So it's, if you feel it building, if you feel it mounting, is try and get out a little bit ahead of that, and that's the time to use it. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, that's a great little tip, that though. Like you say, when the kettle's boiling, or so these little moments in your day where you're waiting for something to happen, that would be the perfect opportunity, because you're not doing anything else in that couple of minutes.
Yeah. Or when you get into bed at night and you're lying there and there's nowhere else to be. Yeah. And people often say, I struggle to get to sleep. Well, that's the perfect time to practice this. And
get off your phone.
Yeah.
Stop doom scrolling and breathe.
Exactly. So just building it into your life where and when you can, and not add an extra thing to your to-do list. Just filter it into your life. Yeah. Adding an extra thing that we can't achieve is just adding to that stress load and that stress bucket, and it's counterproductive. So that's the way I like to approach it.
At the beginning of this chat, you were talking about, you know, having an open mind coming into this kind of stuff, or anything really. Are there misconceptions about what you do? So when you see a client for the first time, do they come in, I don't know, expecting a quick fix, or they're coming in not with an open mind and they're a bit like, convince me that this is good, you know, like do you ever have those sort of misconceptions about what you do? Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I joke that at my classes you can always spot the odd person that's been sort of dragged along under duress by a partner or a friend, like, this will help you, this is what you need. And they show up and they give it a go, and then they think that was a load of weird, like, I'm lying here breathing heavily to music, what on earth was that? And you know you're probably not going to see them again, and that's fine. Like I say, that cake in the cabinet wasn't for them. I think that I myself, many years ago, believed that I could show up and lie on a massage table and someone would fix me, that someone was going to fix me, and then over time, I realised that it takes time and it takes patience, and actually you're the one that's doing the work. You're the one that's healing yourself. So I would never ever purport to be someone that's healing someone. They're healing themselves, and it does require active participation, and it does require a bit of time. And so it's not a passive thing. Yes, of course you can come and you can lie in this bed and say, I'm having an hour to myself, and you can do some Reiki, and I'll usually guide people through relaxation or meditation to really settle. And that is just an hour out of their busy life for them, and they get to lie there and do nothing but just receive and maybe fall asleep, maybe snore, maybe drool, whatever, anything goes.
But it's a safe space.
It's a safe space. Anything goes. But other than that, I do think that there are people who think they'll come along once and it'll be that, magic wand, that silver bullet. And I once upon a time was that person, and then you feel a little bit disheartened or disappointed, but no, it takes time, and it's actually about learning a different way of being, building different practices into your life, and then, much like you can't expect to go to the gym once and lift weights and be Arnie, it's the same sort of thing. There is a bit of patience required, and it does take time, and so yeah. I definitely have had clients that I get the impression that they think they're going to come for Reiki once and they're going to be magically healed, and they're going to be skipping on rainbows for the rest of their life, and that's okay, but it's highly unlikely to happen, So people will often ask, how many sessions am I going to need? And that's a bit like, how long's a piece of string? How much are you able to put in a bit of work in between? How regularly can you come? How much of a shift are you looking to experience, etc, etc, etc. So it's quite hard to put a timeline on it as well for people, and actually I think we never get the job done. It's always an ongoing process, and life keeps happening and it keeps hitting us, so it's just hopefully beginning to build up a bit of a baseline level of resilience to stressors and to life, and have more tools in our toolkit so that we know that we don't need anything outside of ourselves, that everything we have we can access from within, and something as simple as choosing where we place our focus or slowing our breathing down can actually have quite a profound effect on our life. There are people that like to have things that are a little bit more visual or can be measured as well. So I have a piece of kit that it's software, and it's a heart rate variability monitor, and it's been developed by the Heart Math Institute in the USA, and it's wonderful because it brings together, I guess, a bit of mindfulness, a bit of a meditative practice, and breathwork. It brings them all together, and the joy of that is you can clip a little thing onto your ear or place your finger on a heart rate monitor. It measures your heart rate variability, which is actually quite a nice window into how regulated our nervous system is. And what you will often see is that you'll get quite a jagged pattern there on that screen measured by their software, and then within a couple of minutes of following these gentle breathing practices and focused awareness, people can see a shift in real time, so their heart rhythm becomes far more coherent. It's like a sine wave pattern, it's more settled, it's more orderly. And the Heart Math Institute have measured how that impacts our brain waves, how it impacts lots and lots of other things in our system. I don't have the technology to measure the brain waves, but that is a form of biofeedback. Just measuring that heart rate variability in their software shows the level of coherence that they've been able to achieve. And hopefully that builds a bit of motivation to keep practicing, because they can see, goodness, I walked in, I got my baseline reading and it was all over the place. My nervous system was not settled. And I've actually been able to make that shift just by doing this practice. And then they don't need that technology to go away and continue to practice, but they've been able to see that shift in real time.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, totally.
It's motivation.
But it's like you say, some people need data or evidence that it's working rather than just going on feel, I suppose.
Yeah. And they'll often say, goodness, I do feel different. And actually those heart math techniques are brilliant because they're not looking to get us into deep Zen like meditation, really, But we don't want to be in this hyper-aroused state either. So it's that sweet spot in the middle where we're sort of feeling calm but engaged and focused. So often, again, that will give you what you need. If you're feeling a bit sluggish, it will kind of lift you up a little bit, potentially waking you up a wee bit. If you're feeling way up here on the ceiling, it'll bring you back down into that almost more like a kind of flow state, you know?
But it's great that the same technique can work for the two kind of quite opposite states of mind.
Yeah.
And can bring you in, you know, it's great.
It's actually been shown to be, the list of benefits to that are endless. So there's great accounts on there. They've got a huge sort of research institute that's been going for about 30 years. It's a not-for-profit. They've done a lot of wonderful research and it's all there. You know, a lot of that's in the public domain, but then some of the public will come on and leave reviews. Some of the clinicians and practitioners who are using it with clients are giving their accounts of the benefits as well. So there's lots of kind of scientific backing and evidence, but there's a lot of anecdotal stuff on there where people are just shouting from the rooftops about how much it's helped them. And it's simple. It's almost too simple in that you would underestimate how impactful it could be, but there are people on there who are saying that it's been the most useful tool for resolving things like chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia and those sort of ongoing kind of chronic health conditions, lowering blood pressure without medication, improving depression and anxiety, all of these things. It's amazing. It's really, really a wonderful thing.
Well, you've sold me on it for sure. So, to wrap up, if you want to plug your business, your website, anything like that, now's the time to do it.
Oh, thank you very much. So you can find me on Instagram and Facebook, and I have a website as well. Probably avoid my LinkedIn because I've not really given that any attention and love.
Who goes on LinkedIn?
I don't know. So, not me yet, not really. So my website is just trossachswellbeing.com. So that is TROSSACHS for anyone that doesn't know how to spell that. trossachswellbeing.com, and there's a lot of info on there and all my contact details are on there.
Fabulous. And we'll put a link to your website on our link tree with the podcast episode. Lee-Anne, thank you so much. That was really interesting, informative, and thank you for welcoming me in your beautiful little studio today.
Thank you for coming. It's been an absolute joy and a pleasure. I've loved it.
Silly me wrapped up the interview and forgot that we had some beautiful homemade brownies here, made by Lee-Anne's fair hand. So you were just saying this isn't your usual recipe, is that right?
Same recipe, different chocolate. So okay. I like chocolate that like it really gives you a hit and a half, but this is less of a cocoa content than normal. Okay. So cheers. It's quite intensely sweet.
Oh my god, that's amazing. Oh, Lee.
Yeah, sorry, Lee.
Oh, I wish you were here to watch us eat this, Lee. that gets you back for eating an entire Victoria sponge cake in the car by yourself. That is amazing. So you do a lot of baking. You were talking about baking earlier when we were off air.
Actually, my family had a bakery, a big wedding cake bakery.
Wow.
So my dad and my stepmom. And then after I had my wee boy, I worked, well actually before I had Rudy, I worked for them and almost kind of served an apprenticeship, and I worked with them for about 5 years, so learned a lot of amazing skills there, and then took myself off to France and ran a catering business and made wedding cakes for a while.
Wow.
And then came back here, and I actually really missed baking, and I was trying to build up my therapy business. And so I started doing some baking for cafes, and actually, believe it or not, that's completely gluten-free and dairy-free. So my little boy and I, we can't have gluten or dairy. So everything I make's free from those.
Well, it tastes like it's full of all that stuff. So that is, do you know what? I'm going to have to take a bit home for my partner.
Please do. Yeah.
Well, I'll eat half. She can have the other
No,
bit.
there's more in the fridge.
Oh, really? Oh, well, I might have to eat all of this then.
Your partner can have a whole slice.
Oh. even better. Well, I don't know what I was going to say there. Lost my train of thought.
You're in a brownie coma.
I am. Yeah, so I think we'll call it there, because otherwise you'll just be listening to us eating and going, But again, Lee-Anne, thank you so much for your time today. Brilliant.
You're very welcome.
So that was the very patient Lee-Anne.
Yeah.
How was it for you, Paul?
That was great. It was a fascinating chat, and that's why we do this, I suppose, isn't it? It's a subject that I don't really know a lot about. So yeah, it was great, and the brownies
just topped it off.
Yeah, and they were completely vegan as well, I think. So whatever she does
it so well.
She does it so well when it comes to the baking and the breathing and the Reiki. So yeah, it was a lovely afternoon. It was a shame you missed it, really.
It was a shame I missed it. Yes, it sounds like a top one that I missed out on. But I'm gonna just show you this.
Oh, you're having a wee whiskey.
I'm having a little whiskey. One, because I've been as a fly in it.
Lovely.
I've had a surprise visit from my godson.
Oh,
I'm gonna name check Luke Mills.
Right, Luke,
whose girlfriend Connie is up in Glasgow looking at the university. So they're staying with us tonight, and this afternoon I took them to the Glengoyne distillery and we did a tour. But because I was a designated driver, they gave me a little bottle to take my tasters. So I couldn't taste it. So I'm gonna have a dram now, because when this episode goes out, it will be the 29th of October, which is 2 days shy of our year anniversary. So cheers to you, Paul.
I have nothing to choose about.
You haven't even got a Mind Cake cup of tea.
I've got a travel lodge.
No, because you're in a travel lodge, haven't you? So you haven't even got your Mind Cake mug. But cheers.
Cheers to you, my friend.
That's 30 episodes.
Wow.
Over 4,000 plays in total. 400 followers on Facebook. And get this, over 800 subscribers to our newsletter.
What?
So cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, that tastes awful. No, it's lovely. That's lovely. Yeah, so there we go. 1 year old, buddy.
Oh my goodness me. We never even envisaged it would last this long.
Not really, no. I definitely didn't know.
We didn't even
reflect on you.
Figures.
No, I did. No, I genuinely, we didn't really know. I mean, I'm not entirely sure we still know quite what we're doing, but
no, we don't.
But yes, in that time we've had some great feedback. It's been nice to know that we've got some staunch listeners out there who are dedicated to listen to our piffle. We've had some great guests. I mean, who'd have thought we'd have had Alistair Campbell, Jonathan Agnew, which isn't out there yet, Arthur Smith, let alone
everyone in between,
Yeah. So, yes, awesome. Hats off to us. Well done, us.
Well done, us.
And thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you, listeners, especially the loyal ones.
Yeah, the unloyal ones are.
Oh, we're only joking. We love you all. We love you all.
So for this episode, thank you, Lee-Anne, for your patience.
Yeah.
Hope you've enjoyed that. And we will see you next week for some Mind Bites.
And we're not doing housekeeping anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking hell, mate.
Do your housekeeping, Paul.
Oh, Lisa's housekeeping. Oh, how very lovely.
Oh, very lovely.
Very lovely.
So please get in touch with us. You can send us an email at sliceofmindcake@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Mindcake Podcast, and search on Facebook for Mindcake and you'll find us there. Please do leave us a review, like and subscribe and all that stuff. Love you.
And we were having a chat beforehand that seeing as how the waffle should be less waffly, and we're going to actually check in with each other.
Yeah, we're actually going to talk about mental health.
Talk about mental health, and we would like you to check in as well. Just let us know how you've been.
Yeah, because Lee, give him his credit, Lee does all of our social media. So if you follow us on all the social media, you'll see how much Lee posts. He's doing a grand job. And
it's hard work.
It would be nice if you don't want to send us an email or anything like that, just send us a little comment on one of our social media posts.
We'll give it a shout out and say, let's use Malky as an example. Malky, he's doing all right this week.
Yeah. Chris Hyde.
Yeah. He's loving his mug.
Yeah. I got a text message from my pal Malky, another Malky.
How many Malkys do you know?
2. The other Malky. And he said, "Oi, where's my mug?" Smiley emoji.
Did he enter the competition?
He must have done.
I don't think he did.
Well, we'll see you in the next one then, eh?
We'll leave it there and see you next week for some mind bites.
Adios.
Adios, amigos.
Let's start a podcast about our mental health for no good reason why. Let's call it Mind Cake.
Can I just mention, go back to cousin Carrie?
Mm.
Can I tie you down on air? Cousin Carrie has agreed that she is coming to my birthday weekend in Knutsford.
Yes.
Do you know where you are on... Actually, I can't remember which weekend it is now. Oh, no, it's my actual birthday, 6th of December.
6th of December.
Or any listeners who want to come to Knutsford on the 6th of December for a mind cake party.
God, there'll be millions of people in Knutsford.
Oh, yeah, big huge. We have to get the local police involved. He's on the M6. Cousin Carrie will be there, and she'd be delighted to see you if you're about.
Oh, well, that's very kind of Cousin Carrie to think of me.
I think that's the main reason she's going, on the off chance you can get your autograph. Yeah, where I've got some Adele news. I shouldn't say that because it's not nearly as exciting as it sounds.
Adele and Lewis Capaldi are going to be our next guests.
Yeah, maybe. Even if you're a fully grown adult and you just...
Yeah. No, for sure. And if you're not interested, go fuck yourself. Edit that out. Do
you want me to edit that out?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I will.